Welcome to Tuesday's Tips from So Very Easy. My name is Laura. Today I'd like to share with you my personal method on how I find that size of triangle to go on a square. And this is a no math method. You're going to let your rulers do all the work. So this method is going to work with any size square you have. Large, medium, even very, very small. You're going to need two things to take some measurements. But don't worry, this is still no math. If you have a nice big square ruler, that's great, and another nice long ruler. And if you don't have a square ruler, I'll show you how to do the measurements without the square ruler. I'm going to show you using this smaller square. That way it'll fit in the camera, and then I'll show you the larger ones. So I want to take this square and put some triangles on each side to make it another square, a bigger square. And what I'm going to do is use the block itself as a measurement. I'm going to start with the square ruler, and as most square rulers, the numbers go down. So it starts with 1 and goes down on one side, starts at 1 and goes down on the other. So this is where I want that triangle to be. And I'm going to start and put that point right over top of the block. Now the block underneath has been pressed and is already squared up. And without even knowing what the measurements are, I'm just going to slide that corner of the ruler so that those points are going to be on the same numbers on each side. But the measurement's not important. You just need to have them the same on both sides. The next we're going to need a long ruler that's going to fit across and that it has the 1/4 inch markings. So you can use any ruler that you have. What I need to do is find out the size with the seam allowance. So for this block, I'm going to have a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which means there'll be no trimming this block afterwards. I'll show you the trim version next. You're going to use the ruler and you're going to mark a 1/4 inch down from that edge. I'm going to take that ruler and I'm going to slide it until I can view through both of the rulers. And I know that I have that 1/4 inch mark right inside. That's going to give me a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So there's the straight line of that block. And I'm going to take that 1/4 inch and slide it over so that it's onto that fabric a 1/4 inch. See that 1/4 inch there is overlapping? When I've placed that a 1/4 inch down, I'm going to be able to use the end of that ruler as my measurement. So my measurement is 3 3/4. And I know that's the same on this side. So my square needs to be cut at 3 3/4. So my block is 3 3/4. I'm going to cut on the diagonal and I have 2 corners done. When you place them along the edge, you can see you have that 1/4 inch hangover on each side. Now to find where to place this perfectly in the middle without measuring, there is a way. Take your block, fold it, and finger press a little mark, and place that triangle on the edge that you want to sew, and then take that and fold it in half. Now I can just take that and match up that fold right with that finger press. And when I open it up, it's perfectly centered. Now let's stitch that 1/4 inch. Now normally you sew on the top and the bottom and then the 2 sides. I'm just going to sew the next side on so that you can see this 1/4 inch seam. We now have that perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you have done no wasting and there's no room for trimming up. That's the 1/4 inch because that's what we left at the ruler. What if we've left a 1/2 inch? Let's see the difference. The measurement on my square ruler is still the same. However, I'm going to add a 1/2 inch instead of the 1/4 inch. When I line up that 1/2 inch and follow that ruler down to the edge, I'll see that both sides are 4 inches. So I'm going to be able to cut the square 4 inches. So I have a 4-inch square cut in half on the diagonal. I'm going to place them right on the ends using that same folding marking system. I still stitch these with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but you can see where you have a larger seam here, where this is just that perfect 1/4 inch, this is bigger. And with that little extra, you're going to be able to trim it off. So if the fabric shifted at all while you were stitching, you're going to be able to square it up. Either sizes are going to work out right. It depends on what you want to do. I like to use the system where it's a little bit bigger so that I can give it a good press and trim it down square. If you don't have a square ruler, you can do it with 2 regular rulers and something that's going to give you a square corner. Piece of paper will work fine because I know that is at a perfect corner. And I'm going to butt the ruler ends right along that paper edge. So I have the one ruler starting with 1 going down. The next ruler is the 1 going down. This area here now takes place of that square. You have nothing up here. You just need those 2 corners to match those edges. So I want this part as my triangle. So I can take that quilt block and slide it down so those 2 ends are pointing at the same measurement. And I'm going to use that 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to place that 1/2 inch so that it's covering that block. Then when I go to read the end of the ruler, they should both be the same on each ruler. And in this case, I have 7 inches plus 1/8. So you can go up a size. It's just going to make it easier to cut. So I'm going to do 7 1/4. I'd rather go up a size than down a size. So I'm going to cut that square into 7 1/2 inches, then cut it in half, and it's going to fit right on that block. If you're just to use the ruler measurement and then add that 1/2 inch or that 1/4 inch, it's not going to be enough. The ruler measurements are going in one direction and the quilt block is going in another. So it will actually take up a little bit more space. So I do like to round up and square up to those squares. So I'm able to trim those squares perfect afterwards. There is no math involved. You just need to have your rulers do all the work. So it doesn't matter if it's a small block, a medium block, or a really large block. The system is the same. And it doesn't matter what size the square is. Squaring up those corners mean you can square down the block. Thank you for joining me today on Tuesday's Tips. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.